New York State Senator Joe Griffo joining us in studio. Senator, welcome.
Good morning, Dave. Good morning, Jay. Good morning, Sam. And what a great green room you have. Waiting to come in. You get fed here and, with this healthy apple crisp that Beth made.
No sugar added.
It was outstanding, I'll tell you.
It really was.
I appreciate you allowing us to indulge.
Sure, absolutely. Lots of interesting topics to talk about. And sort of late notice. Thanks for coming in on late notice today.
No problem. I was very fortunate to be in town, actually. Got the message this morning around 7:15 and said, yeah, I can do this on the way into the office.
Sure. Well, a couple of different stories of interest with regard to closings, and then a couple of stories of interest regarding the military. First of all, your project, Cell Phones for Soldiers, going on, and that's a nice deal.
Yeah, it's a great program. It was started actually by a couple of teenagers about 11 years ago, and they came up with this idea of recycling old cell phones. So basically what we're asking people, if you have an old cell phone that you were going to get rid of or throw away, you can bring it now, drop it into these receptacles that we have. We have, I think, 5 locations and throughout Oneida County. And as a result of that, what will happen is they will then, I'm partnering with AT&T, they will take these phones and either retrofit them or sell them, and the money they make from that, some of the parts that they can reuse, they then turn into credit cards, calling cards for servicemen and women abroad. We got about 200,000 troops serving abroad right now, and I saw that they were able to do about, I think, 216 million minutes, which is pretty impressive.
Wow. Awesome.
And it gives all of these individuals, particularly around the holiday season, that opportunity if you're away to communicate without that extra financial burden that's put upon them. So I think it's a great program, and I want to thank not only AT&T but everyone who was willing to help us. Looking at this as we're talking, Dave, because I remember we were still working on where. Yeah. But I want to thank Bill Morris over at the New Hartford Shopping Center and the Phillipsons. It's going to be at Phillipsons, the New Hartford Shopping Center, Schnattery's. They always do a great job, very community-minded here in Utica, in South Utica. The Jervis Library in Rome, the Public Library in Rome. The Vernon Downs Racino in Vernon, and then at the State Office Building. If you come into the State Office Building right as you walk in on the second floor, you can do that here in Utica. So we tried to get it across the county.
A lot of opportunities.
And I think the AT&T stores also will have receptacles there.
Great.
But, again, great program. You get rid of an old cell phone that you don't – so a lot of people are like, what do I do with this?
That we all have laying around.
Right. The old ones particularly.
Sure.
You put it in this receptacle. They'll take it. They'll reconvert this as a result. I think they were talking about something like can make up to $5 or more on some of these parts, and then they turn that into calling card minutes.
Yeah, you mentioned Bill Morris. I actually golfed with him a couple of days ago, and his cell phone went. I think I might have, but just barely. But I think his cell phone was going off while we were playing. He was ready to chuck it, so maybe he'll donate.
It was probably me calling him asking if we could put it at the New Hartford Shopping.
Probably right.
It's Joe again.
Another topic of interest regarding the military was this paid patriotism story, Joe. And I don't know if you caught this. I kind of caught it last night. I was like, it kind of piqued my interest a little bit. Now, I know you're on the state level, of course, and this comes from John McCain at the national level, where a report from members of the Senate discovered that as many as 50 pro sports teams have been paid millions of dollars with taxpayer money by the U.S. Department of Defense to promote the military at pregame and halftime shows. And I guess the NFL is investigating this and is going to return the money if they find something out during their investigation.
Roger Goodell's had a pretty tough year.
Yeah, right.
But, no, I think that I didn't know about this until, and I appreciate you gave me a heads up, so I was trying to Google it and try to read a little bit. I think it's worthy of an investigation. Not only by, I think, the NFL, but also, I think, the legislature, the House and Senate to look into this. If you're talking about, I think many times, if you're talking about paid advertising to promote recruiting, and you see that on television, actually.
Right.
I understand that. But what's troubling here is what I read initially is if you're paying somebody to sing God Bless America, that's a problem. Particularly when we are all under the impression that the MLB or NFL or the NBA or NHL, they're all doing this because of the sense of patriotism. It would be like so disheartening to think that when they were playing God Bless America, singing it after the seventh inning, that they were being paid to do that. But we don't know yet.
Yes.
So this is an opportunity brought to the attention of the Congress now, and I think the NFL look at it. Hopefully the other sports will do likewise. And ultimately, I think the House and Senate need to determine what was done here. Paying you see that even locally with Stop DWI, things
Sure.
of that nature. You take out ads, that's understandable.
Right.
But when you're out there paying them to have a patriotic march or maybe to bring the flag out or something, that's a problem, because that should be something hopefully that the professional sports organizations are trying to do and want to do, particularly in NASCAR.
Yeah.
I was even reading the NASCAR thing. That would be really disturbing, because everybody believes that that's like motherhood and apple pie.
Right. Yeah, a little bit hypocritical, perhaps. It's interesting that some franchises got more money than others, like the Atlanta Falcons led the way, and I was wondering why that was, but I don't know. Maybe that'll come out in the report, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be interesting, too, wondering whether or not franchises maybe were smart businesses and realized, well, there's a way to tap into money from the Department of Defense.
That's right.
Right.
So maybe that they just were sharper than some of the others. But on the other hand, as you raised, Dave and Jay, this is concerning, because if you're not really tying this to recruitment, and if you're paying them to do promotional events to showcase patriotism and pride in our country, that's problematic, because some of that should be just genuine. And again, if you're paying for a spot on the scoreboard or on the fence or an ad during the game, that I get. But
Yeah, your Oakland Raiders, by the way, pristine. They didn't take any money, Joe. I know you were concerned about that.
Yeah, look, the car's pretty impressive.
They're doing well this year.
I watched the Jets game because I don't get to watch them a lot.
That's right.
And playing the Jets the other day, that was kind of interesting and exciting for me.
Yeah, 4-3 for your Raiders so far this year.
Still a long season, though.
Having a good
year.
year.
It's been a long drought.
One last note about football. The Heisman Trophy will actually be here in our midst. Apparently, this Monday on Veterans Day, it'll be at the Carbone Nissan location in Yorkville on display. From 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., anyone can come by and get their picture taken with the trophy. I'm actually an official media voter for the Heisman Trophy.
Are you going to strike a pose when you take
I will definitely go by there and do that, for sure. Yeah, I won't, by the way, I won't take it to bed with me. We had a story earlier this week. I don't know if you saw that or not.
I heard about it.
The Larry O'Brien NBA Championship Trophy apparently went to bed with the owner and his wife of the Golden State Warriors.
Good thing it wasn't an NHL player. Imagine what they would have done with the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, they don't like that thing being soiled at all. I know that. A couple of other stories of interest regarding closures here in New York State. I know you were up in Messina, the Alcoa plant, and then, of course, the nuclear plant in Oswego as well. These kind of bad blows for the New York economy.
It was an extremely bad week for the upstate economy, with some of the decisions made by some national corporations. You have Entergy making decisions relative to the nuclear plant in Oswego, which could affect 600 jobs. Alcoa, which made a decision which directly affects me because I represent Messina. That's 500 jobs up there. I chair the Energy Committee, so we have some indirect involvement with some of the energy issues, like with Entergy and the nuclear plants. In fact, I'm touring the plant in western New York next week, Gannett, the nuclear plant there. And then Kraft, Heinz. Made some decisions that were troubling, too, and potentially could have affected a plant that I represent up in Lewis County, Lowville. In fact, I don't know if many people know this.
I've been in it.
All the Philadelphia cream cheese
was
made
right. You did mention that, Jay.
Lowville, New York.
Isn't that crazy?
So they all make different products. When you were reading when Kraft Heinz was talking about, or Heinz Kraft, whatever they're calling it now, talking about the sites they were looking at, and there were 5 in New York. And they all manufacture something different, like the cream cheese is done here in our area, and I can't remember some of the other stuff that was being done.
Strawberry cream cheese, is that what you were saying?
Yeah. And it is an interesting point. I don't think many people, or really anyone that I've spoken to, really realize that I think 90%, or at least, the majority of the Philadelphia cream cheese is made right there in Lowville.
Absolutely.
Dairy country.
Big cream cheese festival every fall in September. If nobody's been up there, it's a great thing to do. I think around the mid-September before the Barn Fest. It's like a week before that.
Okay.
I had to do some media work in there at one point. Fantastic. Everybody that I met, from the lower staff to the CEO, came out and gave us a little care package to take away some of the Philly cream cheese. And we watched some of the strawberry cream cheese being made right there. So
yeah, it's a great thing. And so what happened with Kraft Heinz is, again, many of these major corporations are consolidating, and they have to make decisions. But you need to look at, from our perspective, the workforce. You have an outstanding workforce here, and if you can make a quality product and reduce your price, we have to challenge some of those decisions. So in Kraft Heinz, or Heinz Kraft, we were successful. The state economic development, Mr. Zemsky, the governor's office engaged, and not only did they save the facilities here, they're going to grow the facility in Lowville, which is great. And I think one in the southern tier is got a new lease on life for a couple of years at least, but that still may ultimately go away. So the energy, first of all, I think there's two issues here, Dave, macro and micro. From a macro perspective, I think we got to continue to do as much as we can from a state government to reduce the tax burden on companies, to ease the regulatory climate, and to lower utility costs, so that we make it then a place that you may want to come to do business because it's affordable to do business. Secondly, though, from a micro perspective, it's the incentives that we're providing. And I'll tell you, what was troubling for me in Messina was we have bent over backwards for Alcoa. We have given them low-cost power. We have given them other economic incentives. They have an outstanding workforce there. They had made a commitment to modernize one of the older, they have two plants, east and west there. They had made a commitment to modernize the east plant and to restructure the west plant to make it stronger, and now all of a sudden we were blindsided by that, and that evening when we got the news at like 5 minutes to 5.
Yeah.
And so the governor's office is engaged. Senator Schumer is engaged right now because there are federal issues here too, and I'm hopeful. What we wanted to do yesterday is to reassure the community that we are standing with them. That we have done many things to help this company, so we're asking the company to re-examine and reconsider. And beyond that, we're also working with the local officials there to look at new pathways for the future, just like we had to do here in the Mohawk Valley.
Sure.
You need to reinvent yourself. You have to we're looking at nanotechnology, cybersecurity now. And for a long time, we were relying on one particular segment of industry, whether it was textiles or the military in Rome. And you live and die with those industries, and that's difficult.
Sure.
Rochester with the Big Five. So I'm hopeful that there's much more that has to be done right now, and we'll see over the next week or two what's going to transpire there. In Oswego.
Yeah, I know Governor Cuomo's trying to put a stop to that legally. I don't know if he has a chance of doing that or not.
Well, I think there's some hardcore conversations and discussions going on because the company that owns the facility in Oswego also owns a facility in Indian Point down near New York City. That is making a lot of money. The one up here isn't making money. Governor wants to shut down the one near New York City called Indian Point because they feel that is if anything did go wrong there, you're near the largest city in the country.
Good point.
And there could be catastrophic consequences. But then the industry has been regulated and been safe. And if you look in Europe, for the most part, you see a lot of activity in that industry. So from my perspective, we need to look at a diversified energy portfolio. Yes, we need to look at a lot more clean energy, like wind and solar, and you see that up in Lewis County, a lot of the wind farms. But beyond that, nuclear is a form of clean energy because you're not polluting the environment.
Cleaner than natural gas.
Correct. And I think but we should have, again, when we talk about energy independence in this country, we should have not put all our eggs in one basket. We should be looking at everything. Motivation moving towards green, but you can't forget the fossil fuels too. So you need to look at everything right now. Nuclear is one of those. We have not done a lot to incentivize that industry. That's what we're trying to say now. What can we do in recognizing that nuclear is a form of green energy, and we can help you like we're helping solar and things like that. But they're trying to leverage Indian Point, which the governor doesn't want to do. So this is going to get interesting. The problem is these are lives that we're dealing with.
Right,
you know?
600 people.
Exactly.
Yep.
And people need to look at this from that perspective, whether it's in Oswego or Messina. These are human beings who have given all of their wherewithal. That's one of the greatest attributes we have in our state, our workforce.
Yeah.
People are talented, trained, and have a dedicated work ethic. And it's troubling, and we're going to do our best, obviously.
You'd hate to see him leave, too. We're talking to Senator Joe Griffo on the Talk of the Town, 100.7 FM, WUTQ. I know we spoke with a spokesperson from Entergy saying they were going to try and help with the relocation of some of those 600 people. You hate to see that happen, too.
Yeah, that's baloney.
Yep.
I mean, we need to look at that plant. That's where the company also has to, be fair. If they've identified that they need to be treated similarly to other sources of clean energy, I would agree with that. And if we're not doing that, we need to consider that and look at programs and incentives to do so. On the other hand, to try and leverage this for Indian Point, I don't blame them for doing that, but that's baloney too. I mean, we need to look at this, and we have to look at people's safety as well as reducing energy costs. So they all need to be reasonable here, and I'm hopeful that we're going to find some common ground. So I don't think the last chapter has been written on the Entergy Oswego situation. I remain hopeful there. I'm a little more concerned in Messina with Alcoa right now.
And how many employees were involved there?
Almost 500.
Yeah.
And are they a major employer up there?
They are the major employer
North
right
of Syracuse,
now.
the biggest, I
Correct.
guess. Correct.
And the problem there again, too, let's look at this from a national security perspective. They have smelters there. That's how we turn. I understand that these are world conditions that they're describing right now. The Chinese have flooded the market with aluminum, so there's a glut, so the price has reduced significantly.
Yeah, metal's way down.
And then if you look at the U.S. dollar is strong, so as a result of that, that actually works against us in the world economy. So those are factors. I get it. But the company's got to make some more intelligent decisions, too. And these smelters, this is hard work. And, they're trying to really, you talk about how hot it is in those smelters and everything when you're trying to make this product. But think about this. If you close all of these in the United States and just keep one open in the Midwest, if we were in some kind of world conflict, and I don't want to rely on foreign dependency to make sure we have aluminum or things of that nature. So I think some of this is just ridiculous long-range vision planning, and I think that's why the federal government is taking a look at this saying, wait a minute, we can't have every smelter in the United States closed down,
good point. Yep.
And then we're relying on Europe or Asia, and something goes wrong.
Right.
And we talk about we need to be independent in all areas. It's energy and things of this nature.
Sure.
So I think that's the problem that we need to be careful as we move forward in making decisions and implementing policy. Even in we talked about the cell phones earlier. Everybody's using cell phones now. That's great. But if you jam cell signals, what happens with communication?
Right.
And that's why the landline, everybody's abandoning the landline, but there's still a useful purpose for the landline.
Sure.
Yeah, that's true. Good points. If I can get back quickly to the Entergy thing and you and your involvement with the Energy Committee there, I know that Oswego and the FitzPatrick there, they are okay for alternative sources for energy in that area. So with the plant closing, they will be okay as far as providing energy to those folks. I'm not sure how Indian Point fares. And the other factor in that I'm hearing is that some of those energy costs may go up.
Yeah, those are great points because you take a look at the need and the transmission of energy. So and redundancy. There are a lot of factors that come into play. But in this particular instance, if you were to close the nuclear plant there, it would not affect the transmission of energy. However, in some areas like Guinea, out in western New York, that would.
Sure.
So there, then the Public Service Commission could step in, and the New York ISO, the independent service operator, could come in and say, you can't close that plant because then we're going to have a shortage here, and we're not going to be able to provide power where we need to. That will not be the case. Indian Point is interesting because there is a problem in the city, and that's why we look at transmitting energy from where we are
right here
down to the city.
Yeah, right in
But we
Marcy, New
also
York.
looked at source generation from down that area too. So there's a lot of it's a complex subject area, but I think the important thing here is that we need to be varied. You don't, again, rely on one particular segment completely. And also we want to reduce, we want to be more environmentally friendly as we move on in society and we age. We recognize that this is important for the next generation. So when we look at clean energy, that's a great thing to do, and we should be doing that, and we're investing in that. But we can't neglect one for the other, and we've got to make sure that in no way we become dependent on foreign activity or sources, from my perspective at least.
I like it, Joe.
Senator, thanks for coming in. Best of luck with the Cell Phones for Soldiers program. Again, those locations are Shenatries and also at Phillipson's for the drop-off.
State Office Building in Utica and New Hartford. State Office Building in Utica, Phillipson's in New Hartford, and Shenatries in Utica, Jervis Library in Rome, and Vernon Downs Racino in the western end of the county.